Hello students. Today we are going to discuss about Piers Plowman. This is one of the texts which is in your syllabus paper 1 and this is a, a text which is in a single unit. So it means you cannot avoid it because you will be getting questions from every single unit and it is much more if you are able to do this one unit. This one detailed question if you are preparing, then one or two maybe small questions will also be prepared altogether. So this is one of the introduction I found very interesting, and I think we are able to read this properly. So you take this video as, maybe you can take it as an audio, and you just listen it. Somewhere in between I will pause so you can take a screenshot also, but this is going to be moreover an audio, so you just listen it whenever you are traveling, you are busy. So let's just start. It is, broken forest trade is now worse than. I start from here. Instead of seeking truth, men seek money. Instead of honoring love, they honor wrath. Instead of dealing honestly, they bow down before pride. Flattery, bribery, corruption, and jobbery, branded under the title of Lady Mead, who is the thing disguise of Alice Pierce, an infamous mistress of Edward R3. Kings are weak, barren cats that seize the paws about the people of the real. Knights are idle hunters, layers are thieves, monks and nuns are no better than they should be. Merchants are swindlers, bankers are coin clippers, and all the wonderful array of papal officers and English churchmen are mere plunderers of the l- land, pocket fillers and cheaters of the people. As for friars, there was no good friar in the days of Francis, but that was long ago. Neither wit nor learning, scripture or imagination helped the Sikhs one introduction, zot in of them. This pilgrimage, words are the end. And now, if you listen, this is the simple thing we are discussing. And in this, words, everyone is more excited to talk about the things and how the character of the society, if you just see this whole paragraph, how the character of the society and the nature of the people are changing. This is what the theme of Piers Plowman, where we are talking about how the society is becoming barren, how the officers are bankrupt, and they are uh, this bankers are coin clippers and knights are idle hunters. These are, so you again read this, you take a pause, you just take a screenshot, and then read it again, listen it again. So primarily people are depend on words. So people make good statements, but there is no practical situation changing. And how this, the basic human nature which could be so good, which could be so helpful, is actually diminishing. Are the working man, God save the mark, is an idle, a drinker, a spoil worker, and a wrestler, a loafer and unemployable. The professional beggar with limbs professionally broken for his trade is no worse than he, and ruffling regular covetous lords, cheating shopmen, idle priest, lying pilgrimage, and fine furred harlots jostle one another in the chaos of the scene. Through all warning all and at time, tearing and punishing all, stalk the shadows forms of plague and storm and famine, regularly visiting England, God's messengers to the generation that have clean forgotten him. And him here is God. So how people are going away from God, and how people are getting into that, mere human nature, because this is a text which is taking us from a mortality to immortality. How being human, we are so selfish and small and narrow. But the moment we think about him, about God, then we think about everybody. So that is how, from the smaller to the larger, from the self to the other self, and from the myself to the whole universe. So this idea we are carrying here. And though Piers Plowman, may go down to hell and fetch humanity from Satan's grip. So that's how the humanity is gone. The Satan is powerful, and Piers Plowman is going and gripping the humanity from the Satan's grip. Yet there rises the dead shape of Antichrist, Christ and sweep the gentle figure from scene. And it was night. This is the first impression that one gets of the book known as Piers Plowman. But it is first impression only. Another reading shows another side. Kings may be weak, but they are resolved to deal sharply with Lady Mead. Reason and conscience have by no means left the land. They plead passionately the king's officer for the punishment of the wrong baron, and knights are not all wicked. They can rule far better than the people could who would try their hand at government, and it is they who will, when the time comes, bring the church to the bar of the judgment. Gentlemen are willing and even anxious, though almost important, to help against the disorder of the day. Some layers here are there will plead for God's poor and take no fee for it. Pray, some monks and nuns stay in their convent, some hermits in their cell, and they are work for some honesty is still left in trade, and bishop here and there knows for his business, and parish priest here and there no do not skip away to London, but stay in the parishes and comfort and feed their people. Unity and peace and conscience and charity never cease to do their work in the human heart, and they rise the banner of the Christ in the field of Armageddon. The working a man, the real, the true, honest, uncomplaining working man, is up early and hard at work for very few pence. The cottage woman holds her head up and puts a good face on it. Some of the beggars and Christ poor who can perform do nothing but lie. A Lazarus did the divorce, and the Moffat Piers good anchors, and a stray woman of the streets anger for the great pilgrimage. Though all warning, all encouraging, all comes at the length, though foreshadow throughout the former scenes an ordinary man. Piers Plowman, the people's man. Okay, so what is this Piers Plowman? The people's man, the Christ, pure humanity adorned with love, hardworking humanity, armed and indignation, sympathetic humanity clad in an intelligence that knows all. That is what Piers Plowman. What is Piers Plowman? He's a people's man. He's a poor man. He's a people's Christ. He's a poor man's Christ. Poor humanity adorned with love. He's a love. He's adornment, and he's a hardworking humanity. And then, if you see this, you can the four lines you can contrast with the para first in the beginning when we were talking about the true humanity, which is how the people are actually getting greedy, narrow, and more mortal, with indignation, sympathetic humanity clad in the intelligence that knows all, makes allowances at one time setting high-born ladies to work, at another passionately attacking the insolent priest, at another calling upon famine to help him again, and loafing, growing, wrestling of the streets, but always encouraging the uh, penitent sinful, helping the weak, leading the way in the great journey. A strange figure, Christ in humanity, humanity Christ clothes. Neither all poor man, nor all plowman, nor all a Jesus, but fading and vanishing and reappearing in all form of humanized divinity, ending as the Christ conquered, that from the cross went down and burst the door and defied the brazen guns of all, and brought Piers Plowman fruit home with a victory. Yet even in this majestic battle with Lucifer and Belial, a raga muffin and goblin, no omnipotent god for removed from the cares and sorrow of the 14th century England, but one like God, a Smartian, barefoot, bootless, riding an ass back, and somewhat like Piers Plowman, without spur and spear. Brightly he looked like one that cometh to be dubbed knight. To get him his gilt spurs and his slashed shoon. This is general picture of the poem. Of such parts are here wholly and partly transcribed. The teaching of the book is negative in that, in face of the tremendous issues, counsels no opposition to king, church, baron, or knights. It is not inflammatory. It is no harboring of the Reformation, though it contains a startling prophecy of the great event. It can't be looked upon anti-papal, though it was written in the time of great schism. It distinctly disbelieves in the extreme of what the modern world called democracy. Although moral collectivism is its a watchword and nowhere gives any support to the notion that for sure the coming of the great revolt of 1381 and approve of that revolt when its introduction Z came. It seems, notwithstanding a few political allusions to be as remote from the politics as the gospel and themselves, and for the same reason, no form of government, it would say, it is bad. If men have the religious spirit, every form of government is bad if they have it not. On the other hand, the teaching of the book is positive enough that it puts its finger on the abuse of the time: lawlessness, falseness, dishonesty, jabbery, lawlessness, falseness, dishonesty, jobbery, a money grubbling, luxury, idleness. Idleness of all things it can't away with. And idle rich are so as much as idle poor. Idleness with all its accompanying evils, begging, gluttony, dishonorable dealing, a simony, neglect of plain duty, luxury, senseless, and unbridled idleness is the unpardonable sin. And Professor Minto has a sketch, a curious parallel between this poem and the teachings of the Thomas Carlyle. So, this you remember, Professor Minto and Thomas Carlyle. You can give these reference for your answer. Who possibly never had the book in his hand. If the undecided king is the victim of the circumstances, the wasters among the rich are what? They are because they have not enough true work to do. The same may be said of the unworthy prelate. He does not do his true work. It may equally be said of partner, merchant, knight, lady, hermit, uh, pilgrim, huckster, and hewer, ditcher, and delver. Truth, who stands confusedly for God and Father, rules that each man should have his work and do it well. And the heaviest condemnation of truth is for those in all ranks of life who, instead of working, go and hunting and sit by the road and sing, "Hey, trolley, lolly, and God save you, Lady M." Piers Plowman himself a preach work. He puts his mittens on the hang's basket and runs his neck. A mock pilgrim, and off he goes to plough his half acre. Indeed, the motto of the poem might be must plough, and but it must be plowed without the thought of self enrichment and the cost of the others. Work is not enough. Pride and flattery work, traitors work, licher works, this dicers and minstrel work, thieves work, liars work. So this is how work is not enough. Pride and flattery work, traitors work, lichers work, dissers minerals work, thieves work, liars work for the friars, and friars themselves work, merchants in their apprentice work, and partners work, and they all judge children. It is not enough to work. A man must work honestly for himself and for his fellow. He must work for his religion, for his king, and for his country. In the humorous section dealing with his own life, because this poem is having a humor also, dealing with own life, the writer condemns himself for idleness. And we in our day, Piers Plowman says he condemns himself with justice. His definite teaching is that of the gospel. The poor ye have always with you, more shame to you. You rich England should have no poor. It is your bounden bounden duty to right the world of the miserably poor, and you can do it if you will by making all workable. The poor ye shall have always with you is a text he never refer to, because he knows that he cannot find it in gospel. No autocrat can be more severe than he upon those who will not work. He has one word for the able-bodied loafer, and one alone: starve him. And he knows, those who are able-bodied and they are not working, they must starve, or they must be made to starve. This is what Piers Plowman is saying. I mean, it's a kind of simply, making the society more honest, more working, more putting into the work, rather than talking and doing all the literary. So England for England is cry throughout the poem. England for England is a cry throughout the poem. Please note down these significant points. He hates to see the Pope meddle in the appointment of the foreigners to living that have not fallen vacant. He or hates to see men carry good English money to Avignon, Rome, and had to see men make pilgrimage to St. James and St. Peter. When the pilgrimage they have make are to jails and hospitals and to their poor neighbor Bor cottage. If Englishmen go to Sinai and Bethlehem to seek the saints, for God's sake, let them stay there. And he says, we want no such pilgrimage here. So that's how, mere pilgrimage is not required. Your hard work, honesty, and any effort to uplift your country yourself is required. You can find your true pilgrimage by going the around of your own parish. Again, he is defining enough we so expected in the his demand for the clean life. The king has his Alice appearers and he must go, and bishop have their lemons. He, the hermit and pilgrim, their girls. The beggars breed like rabbit and are never married. Luxury, lust, and lechery spell the same thing for him, and with unnecessary welcome, unnecessary wantonness. In passage after passage, it declaim against the fatal gift of Constantine and legacies to the church. Religious goes a hunting with a pack of a hound at his trail, and with his wealth in money and lens come the ill life, the life of wantonness, stained windows and gorgeous churches, fine vestments and full church pockets are the much anthem to that him are the evil deeds of Richard II and of the king, officers who pay the poor in receipt instead of it money, who rob the honest workers of his horse and his wife's honor, and he made innocence. Introduction 13. He pleads too far a saner education and wholesome corruption. The working man is told to go and get a two stick and beat his idle wife. Another is blamed because his wife banned cost them cost went cost £3 for his own cost 5 shillings. The gentleman cookers is his children because he is afraid of the catching the plague and never takes a stick to them. Spare the switch and spill the sun. Spare the switch and spill the sun is to him a maxim equally true if it be applied to idle wife, thief, a beggar, and or child. He praises the good school and laments that not enough money spent on what we should call scholarship. Finally, he devotedly prays that the church will reform herself and prophesies that if she will not do so, the king and the barons will reform her in a way will not like. And of the idle, he begs that famine will return to England, for only in the sharp correction of the drought and hunger will England learn her lesson, and that will learn in it finally he cannot hope. For after cavalry come anarchist and pride and flattery again their places, and with his indignant spirit passes sadly into the dark. No one can quite tell how far the author represents the true picture of him. He is in general agreement with Chaucer, who was an earnest as he, and anyone will see his who cares to look below the surface of the Canterbury Tales. It is custom to say Chaucer is the poet of the rich and Langland of the poor. So this is how it is custom to say that Chaucer is the poet of the rich and the Langland of the poor. That Chaucer laughed at the tolerated with Horatian and sang a Freud and foibles and voices and even miseries of the day. Nothing to my mind can be further from the truth, and the plain fact is that whole Langland is sardonic, indignant, fierce. You never know when you turn a page of Chaucer how near you are to tears, and it must be remembered by those who consider Chaucer an aristocrat and Langland a democrat. A Chaucer's poem include the figure of the parson, uh, Janicula, Griselda, and the old man of the pardoner's tale, and the numberless picture of the god and the charitable rich. The question that surrounds this poem as a text are most difficult. The reader may be referred to the Professor Keats, a monumental addition of which it need to say, I have met the fullest use. The Professor Menlays chapter, the second volume of the Cambridge History of English Literature, and Jusendra's beautiful and loving studies of the Piers Plowman. The bibliography given in this Cambridge history, and anyone, however, who would feel the poem as it ought to be felt much have in his hands, if only for an hour. Two book, first a black letter copy of the poem, which is in these days of the reprint cries aloud of the publicity, and secondly the volume which Bishop Stubbs, in a fine spirit of recognition of written of our author. Christ in English literature. We do of not know for the certain what the original form of poem, nor do we know when, how, with object the great addition to this form we made. The criteria of allusion not fully served as a means of settling dates, for when a work written before the days of printing is being through 40 years or more constantly altered, contemporary allusion may creep in any time. The utmost that can at the present moment be asserted without fear of contradiction is that the poem written between 1360 and 14, please note down this point, Piers Plowman, is written between 1360 and 1400, that it was constantly and in many cases carelessly revised, and large additions were made, that was well known in some by 1381, when part at least of the teaching and the name of the central figure Piers Plowman were made free use by the leaders of the mob, and broke into London, hung an archbishop, killed the lawyers, and dragged the Fleming out of the church to butcher them in street. And traditionally, it has thus been mostly unfairly regarded as the herald and literary expression of that mysterious, ill timed, and unsuccessful moment. The reader will do well to bear the mind that though the temptation to enlarge upon such an unprecedented event and sake of the part of the London must have been great. There is no word in the latest recession of these poems to describe, praise, condemn the moment. What Taylor, John Straw, or Revered John Ball. Please remember these writers. Most editors explain this illusion signs of the last recension by saying the poet was afraid. The consequences of recreation following to refer the uprising of the people. I would rather see in his abjuration of the revolt, in his failure to describe the revolt, a continuation of the attitude towards always adopted by him, and that was England needed was a change of heart and not a change of purse. So that's how the thing you have to remember. England needed change of heart, not the change of purse. The hateful relapse into savagery which marked the Jacquier and the French Revolution and the lynching state of the 2 day introduction of would be him, and negation of the spirit of Piers Plowman, throwing away of that man of all classes have laboriously acquired in the demon of legislation and self-government and self-control. Thus I hold, while admiring greatly the historical a novel called Longbill, and that talented author Miss Florence Converse has in in her interpretation of the part played in the author and his poem in the troublesome days and awful scenes and marking year 1381. And if one is uncertain about the exact date of composition, we are still more in doubt as to the authorship. So many time it is also said that who is the author of Piers Plowman is also a kind of uh, confusion. The poem is attributed variously by to Robert or William Langland of Cleobury, Mortimer, and to the William Langley, but no outside allusion of any importance save that of the tradition tells us who the writer was. We gather his biography, if it can be so called, from his work. The humorous description of the himself occurring only in one next text may have been added at any date and uh, any chantry priest or other person, and it is impossible to say that what does it mean. And this section, the fable of the rats and long addition which follows God's bull of pardon, and the interludes and the heroings of the hell and coming of the Antichrist, seems to the present addition to the point and composition of characters of authorship. A composite character strongly maintained by Professor Mainlay and denied by Juicy Rain. It is often forgotten that when poem dealing with social miseries is produced, it may be made vehicle to present the feeling and aspirations of the thousands more than other, and that when in addition in addition it becomes popular and written in easily imitable form, many hands, authorized and unauthorized, set to work to help alter, continue, strength, weaken, enlarge. One thinks instinctively of the book of the Sam and the prophecies of Isaiah and plays of the Shakespeare, the sonnet of the Shakespeare, and Wycliffe Bible and Anglo-Saxon Gospel and Iliad and Odyssey, all of which were and some of were still assigned to one individual author or editor, though criticism has in nearly very case disputed and absolutely claims set up for the David, Isaiah, Shakespeare, Wycliffe, Alfred, Homer, respectively. Such a composition authorship, I think, is the only thing that will count the almost senseless improvement which we can also include with Piers Plowman, continually meet with the latest text, and I believe that it care comparative study of the text themselves. So in this way, this is how the 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 writer is also being talked about. So I finish here, otherwise this video will be very long. So you can actually understand how this text is talking about. This is a text which is talking about the authorship of the Piers Plowman, and this is the text which is talking about the time period of the Piers Plowman, and this is the text which is talking about all this theme, what is there and how this is working. So this is a very good audio. Listen it again and again. My concern was to read it only just to make you uh, give you the reading itself, so you can actually quote from the text. Interpretation could be your own also, and in a separate video we can do more interpretation as well. All the best. Appear Write very good answer in your exam, and this could be one of the best help. Piers Plowman, William Langland's Piers Plowman. And I finish my video here. Thank you so much. Please subscribe my channel, follow and share.